always tell. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, there's an echo," and I can't hear it.
Yeah,
Matthias, it's been a while, man. How are you?
Hey Sam, I'm doing well, and you?
Very good.
Glad to see you. Hello, Kevin.
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of people you know, probably.
Probably.
I mean, the community is pretty small. It's kind of hard not to know almost everybody, at least all the vocal people.
Yes. Yeah, no, I've seen a couple of screenshots of some masterminds meeting, and I know a few faces.
Yeah.
So do you have that meeting every week, or?
Every other week.
Every other week, okay.
Well, actually, not technically every other week. It's the first and third Wednesday, which is not the same as every other week.
Okay.
As we find out occasionally. People are surprised by that. I'm like, no, yeah, they're not exactly the same thing.
Hi.
Hi, Enrique.
Hi, Matthias. Hi, Sam. Hi,
I do have to say, I've been working with Enrique lately, and Enrique is awesome. Fab has trained him very well. So I'm sure you're not surprised by that because I think you probably worked with him before. But
no, I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah, Enrique is a good guy and working well, and has a very good attitude. He doesn't know everything, but at least he has a very good attitude and learns very quickly. So that's the most important things, I believe.
Well, Fab's test first philosophy has definitely rubbed off on him too. So he's stamped very good with Mark. So. So that's good.
Hi, Stefan.
Hi. All right. I don't know if anybody else is going to show up, so we can just go ahead and get started. Do you need the full hour, or can we do a little something first?
I don't think I need the full hour. It will definitely depend on how many questions I have.
Cool.
And,
all right.
It's going to be very, very casual and live demo. I didn't really prepare slides, and I'm going to go with the demo.
Yeah. All right. So at the beginning, we usually just do an introduction where everybody goes around. And since we don't know each other, we don't usually talk about what we do, but it's more a reminder that we should, instead of like putting out fires and getting caught up in all the minutiae, we should do some strategic thinking and do some like big picture strategy things. So every 2 weeks we come in and we talk about what was a big picture strategy thing that we tried to do the last 2 weeks. Okay. So, but also since Matthias is here, maybe you can give him a little bit of about your background or what level you're at or what kind of stuff you're working on, just so it helps him tailor the presentation a little better. And then we'll do your introduction last, Matthias, and then you can start into your thing. Does that work?
Yep, that works.
All right, Kevin, why don't you go first?
Yeah.
You just happen to be at the top right, so go around the circle.
That's fine. I've been working on a lot of leadership classes through different avenues. We're doing a research study on a couple different books, doing some company work stuff. Been brought to my attention to try and improve my working as a servant leader instead of a manager. So that's been challenging. Also been starting up the new CI/CD tools. So I've been investigating getting Jenkins on vSphere in our data center in Canada and Tallahassee here, and excited to get started on that project. There's a lot of details out there and a lot of work beginning. Plenty more of other work, but I think that's what I'm focusing on over the next couple weeks.
Funny you mentioned the leadership and management thing, because I just got done. I take this like business class like right before this, and they were definitely talking about that, and they're not the same thing.
Not at all. It's going to take many, many months, if not years, to get that right. So.
But we've all been indoctrinated into thinking they are the same thing, which is part of the problem.
Correct.
It's
especially with
that we know. Yeah.
Most people under 30 react very different to older management styles, we'll say. So.
Yep. It's changing, which is a good thing.
It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. I think that social media has helped us in that arena. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Casey, why don't you go next?
Hey there, I'm Casey. I am a co-founder of Zaya Solutions and founder of Left Door Solutions. But I say CLA. Yeah, I've been doing LabVIEW for a long time, and I mostly do development with Actor Framework, but I'm interested in other stuff too. Specifically, kind of going off of what Kevin was talking about, I was investigating some continuous delivery stuff, and we were talking last time about how, I developed like a utility to help with deploy and auto update applications that I deployed, and so that's how we kind of got on this train too. So I'm curious I've heard about BLT, but I haven't investigated it much, so I'm curious to hear more about it.
Yeah, you will learn more. And by the way, I read your blog post. I believe you did a blog post on your website regarding your NI package manager API. So I found it was really great and useful to provide. It's a small set of tools, but they are very useful. So it's really nice that people like you provide this to the community.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, and then the past couple of weeks I've been investigating, thanks to reference from Sam, talking with Terry about doing some VMs for development, but based in the cloud. So I talked with him, got going with that, been playing around with that a little bit too. So
cool. Yeah,
we can talk about that at some point.
Worked out. Yeah. No, I'm interested in that myself because right now I run my own server and it's a kind of a pain, but it works. But there might be a better way. Eric, why don't you go next?
Hey, I'm Eric. I work in the teaching labs at Duke University, Durham, North Carolina, in the mechanical engineering department. So I kind of help make all the teaching labs go. Big part of my job is kind of writing the LabVIEW applications for all of our teaching lab experiments, control experiments. And one of the classes, I help run as control systems class, and we do some LabVIEW in that, teaching LabVIEW in that. So I'm kind of the de facto LabVIEW guy for the department. One of the things that I can always try to kind of look for a better solution on is distributing, my applications across all of our different sort of lab PCs. And we have like 20 computers, 20 different workstations across a couple of different labs, and just kind of look for better ways to sort of do that and update things and manage things, which is kind of why I'm interested in hearing this today. And just kind of something I've been working on last couple of weeks. I bought I wanted to get into some like embedded control stuff, so I bought a BeagleBone controller. I couldn't find any Raspberry Pis, but I found this and got LabVIEW going on it. Been able to deploy some VIs onto it as a real-time executable. So just kind of playing around with that, thinking about trying to do some embedded stuff in some of our labs. So I've been kind of just doing some simple proof of concept testing with that.
Cool. All right, thank you, Eric. Enrique, why don't you go next?
Yeah, well, for a few weeks, I've been working in a new generic API tester. It's like a dashboard for browsing your DQMH projects. The last edition, I am capable to select which project I want to browse. So this is the new thing. I can browse different projects and launch the specific API tester for a DQMH module. I have all the documentation in showing screen. I can see the connector pane for each of the requests, broadcasts, etc. So I want the end user of my application will have the overall view of the project. Just the DQMH part, because sometimes we have mixed stuff, and I want just the DQMH part in one single place. So this is the new thing.
Great. Cool. Thank you for sharing. Stefan, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I'm Stefan from Belgium, work at Intersoft Electronics, and we do stuff in radar technology, mostly data analysis, a lot of our applications are actor framework. And last couple of weeks, I've been working on test sequencer. We wrote our own test sequencer 8 years ago, and that wasn't the best idea we ever had. But yeah, we still have it and it runs. And I've been moving those plugins to Colin, a package manager that we currently use, and filling our artifact repository. And I've also been playing around with the Bitbucket REST API in LabVIEW to get a lot of data straight out of Bitbucket without having to clone repos and using the Git command line. So that's been working nicely.
Very cool. All right, you're up, Matthias.
Yep. So what if I share my screen? I just have a few slides.
Yeah, actually, sorry, I need to enable that. Give me 1 second. All right, you should be able to start now.
Yeah. This is. Here we go. Okay, so my name is Matthias Baudot. For people who don't know me, I'm French and I live in Canada. I moved in Canada when I was 15 years ago, to make my master's degree in electrical and computer engineering, specialization in advanced signal processing and neurosciences. So it's been more than 15 years that I program and love LabVIEW. I do LabVIEW because I felt in love in LabVIEW. It's not something that I was pushed to do. It was my own decision, and I don't regret that. I'm a LabVIEW champion and CPI. In 2015, I was the world's fastest LabVIEW programmer, which is a nice thing to get new business. Definitely makes nice advertisement. Other than LabVIEW,
People didn't expect you to be really fast on their projects. Like, do they like?
So
they put like crazy deadlines.
No, it's really you. It's on the expo floor, and you have a booth, and you have some exercises, logic exercises, logical algorithms, and you have to do them all them right and the fastest. And then the fastest one. So during 2 days, you can basically to do the exercise and try to be the first one, the fastest one. And at the end of the conference, you go on the stage with the former fastest LabVIEW programmer, and there is a battle, and the one who wins the title. So it's really nice experience. So I'm a musician. I play guitar, piano. I love to do windsurf, and in Canada we have a lot of snow, so I also really enjoy snowboard. And I founded my company Studio Buds about 15 years ago in 2007. So my company is an NI partner, also the QMH trusted advisors like your company, Sam, and your company, Enrique. We do obviously LabVIEW development, consulting, and training. And we have 2 products on the LabVIEW Tools Network, BLT for LabVIEW, which we will talk about today, which is a centralized management system for LabVIEW applications and LabVIEW deployments. And there is also a free tool called Controls Generator for LabVIEW that allows you to programmatically create LabVIEW control, LabVIEW buttons from pictures with automatic recoloring, etc. So it's a nice tool to check out if you're interested. So yeah, before I start, any questions?
Have you ever played Whirly Ball?
Sorry?
Have you ever played Whirly Ball? It's a game in Canada. I don't know if you've ever played it.
No, maybe I'm not Canadian enough for that.
I'll hold it for later, but go ahead.
Okay.
Where'd the name for your company come from?
Sorry, what is the?
Where did the name for your company?
The name, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, as I said, I'm a musician, and when I was young, I wanted to create a recording studio. And my name is Baudot, so Studio Buds. And finally, I do LabVIEW. I don't have any recording studio, but I kept the name. It's still a studio of software development, so that works.
Is it just you at Studio Bods, or do you have
So
other people?
I'm the only employee, but I work with several contractors. Enrique is one of them. So I have a team of 3 contractors, and yeah, with that I'm able to take larger projects and also have more different expertises. So that works really great. Yeah. As a owner of a company, I've been back and forth several times. Should I grow? Should I hire employee? Should I subcontract? And I really like the model of having independent contractors and creating a team of really nice people, and everyone has his own liberty, his own strengths, and they can decide if they want to work or not on a particular project. So I really like this. All right, so we're gonna jump to the demo. So first there is a website, bltforlabview.com, that redirects to studiobots.com/BLT. So from there you can have a lot of information about BLTs, all the features. Maybe I can show this little graph here, these little pictures. It represents what is BLT for LabVIEW. So BLT for LabVIEW basically takes your LabVIEW source code. It will generate the build specifications or patch your existing build specifications. And BLT for LabVIEW will take care of building your executable, generating an installer, uploading your executable to a server. And also there is a licensing server in there, and from BLT you can manage your products, manage your users, your licenses. And from the end user machine, it connects to the server to get the automatic updates for your software, get the permissions from the licensing server, and also do some reporting of usage and error, which is one of the favorites feature of the customers. I'll talk about that later.
I have a question. Can we go back to that? So
Yes.
For your installer, you're building like MSI-based installers?
So the BLT builds an setup installer.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's not it's not what I really recommend. The idea of having BLT build an installer is to give the ability to someone to build a one file installer very quickly, but there is not much customization. You can have a lot more customization with NI installer if you want to make easy to install different runtimes, create shortcuts, registry keys, etc.
Yep.
The nice thing is that when you use BLT to distribute your applications, you are not tied to an installer technology. BLT is included in your executable, so you can distribute that executable with whatever installer technology you want. So it can be an NI installer, it can be the BLT installer built with setup or whatever you want. So some quotes, yeah, Fabiola is definitely one of my my fan. She's using BLT. She has been using BLT for many years. She uses it as well in the company she works now, and she really enjoy it. So if you have questions, also you can always refer to Fab. Here I have a virtual machine. It's a Windows 10 virtual machine. I just downloaded BLT, and we are going to start from scratch and install BLT on this VM. I have LabVIEW 2021 32-bit installed in there. And I also installed DQMH because for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to use the CML DQMH template, project template. Just to have an application for the purpose of this demonstration that we will license and distribute and auto update. Okay, so it's not longer than that. When you install BLT, you get prompted if you want to go to the Getting Started guide. It's not perfect, but it's a huge source of resources, and you have all the steps to do everything you need. So it's definitely the place to go when you have questions, and if you cannot find the answer here, then you send an email. So I'm going to start BLT for LabVIEW from the desktop here. And it's interesting because BLT is distributed by BLT. Can be confusing, but BLT is a tool to license your applications, but BLT is also licensed with BLT and auto-updated with BLT. So what you can see here is similar to the user experience that someone else will have when you distribute your own application with BLT. So I'm going to obtain a new trial activation key for this product for the purpose of this demo. So it's not a recorded demo, so there is some wait time sometimes while it processes. So let's call this LabVIEW Mastermind and put an email.
Where's the server that?
The server is hosted in Microsoft Azure in the Northeast region. Some customers also have their own server in-house in their own Azure or AWS instance. By default, when you install BLT, you are connected to the StudioBot server, which is in Azure, but there is an option to have your own server. Okay. So this will generate a trial license. Okay, and I should receive an email with the key. All right, so I just receive an email like that. So I have the activation key that I will just copy and paste here. And it will start BLT after doing all the license checks. All right. Yeah, so it installs the source distribution. So BLT works for LabVIEW executables working on Windows from LabVIEW 2013 and greater, 32-bit and 64-bit.
Windows only?
Windows only,
Okay.
still working on other operating systems, it's especially RT. But yeah, the public version for now is Windows only. So I'm going to register on a free license server. The free license server allows you to have one application deployed on a maximum of 5 machines for free. That's the free version. There is no time limitation. I have customers that have been using the free version for many years. They are happy with that. So yeah, it's limited. One product, 5 machines. All right, so I have my BLT server. I'm going to create my application that I want to distribute. So I go to LabVIEW. I'm going to create a project from the CML DQMH template. So continuous measurement and logging, CML DQMH. So BLT connects to LabVIEW through VI server. So you need to have VI server enabled on your computer. And I will show you how to configure that. All right, so VI server is already enabled on port 3363. So in BLT, configure LabVIEW connection here. You can see at the bottom the status, what it does. So I'm connecting to LabVIEW 2021 32-bit on port 3363, and it works. All right, so from there I can also install the BLT for LabVIEW palette, which is kind of the API that allows you to customize some behavior of BLT. So I'm going to do that because I'm going to use some of the VIs of the API to report errors to the server. All right. So this is the CML main. In case you don't know this application, I'm going to show you quickly what it does. So we have a launcher here that will be hidden when you run from the executable. And this is the main application. You can calibrate your device, start the acquisition, and you have some settings where you can change the signal type and where you log the data. So it's very similar to the NI continuous measurement and logging project template, but written with DQMH. So what I'm going to do is do some changes in this application to make them work in BLT. Something I need to do is remove the quit LabVIEW because BLT is a wrapper. BLT will take your existing application and wrap it into something that then takes care of the licensing and the automatic updates and everything. But when you exit the application, BLT takes care of exiting your application after making sure it uploaded all the information to the server and that nothing is lost. So
does this work just as well with Actor Framework applications? Because with Actor Framework, it launches the actors kind of dynamically, and then it doesn't wait for anything; it just continues on. So if the wrapper is around, say, the launcher there.
So you really put the wrapper around your launcher. I don't see why it would not work with Actor Framework. It's really what you put in your the startup VI of your executable will be wrapped by BLT, and it will behave exactly the same as your regular application, but it does some stuff before and after.
Yeah, well, I guess Casey's point though is usually the launcher just goes out of memory immediately.
Right.
So
it's not specific to Actor Framework, but anything that's launched dynamically like that.
Yeah. So you have to be smart enough to know that the actor's still running and wait until it's done, I guess.
So there is always, when you have an executable, there is always a static linkage to your startup VI, and that startup VI then can do some dynamic launching, and it works absolutely well with BLT.
Okay.
If you are a little bit familiar with DQMH, you know about the error reported broadcasts. All the errors from the different modules get reported up to the launcher. So here we should receive all the errors. So this is really where I will place my BLT for LabVIEW log error. It's done
right there.
Yeah, right there. Thank you, Sam. So by putting this VI here and connecting the error wire, and the wiring of LabVIEW 2021 is disgusting. This VI, if there is no error, it does nothing. And if there is an error, it caches it and transmits it to the server every few seconds. It's all what it does. The idea is that you get notifications when an error happens in your application, and you get all the details about the error. I will show you that later. And it's very helpful when your customer calls in, hey, that doesn't work. What do you see on the screen? No, your customer doesn't even have to call you. You know before, at the same time of your customer, that there is an error in the application, but you get a lot of troubleshooting data to help troubleshooting that. So that's the only two modifications.
Matthias, do you have a way to capture a screenshot and send that back too?
not in this version, but that's definitely an improvement that I would like to make. Yeah, definitely. You would need to request the consent of the user, I guess.
Yeah. You might capture stuff. Yeah.
But that would be great. Absolutely. That's something that is in the roadmap already. Yeah. Okay, so now I'll create the product in BLT. Right now, I don't have any product. So a product is an application. So I'm going to add an application, CML DQMH, and just select the LabVIEW project. Okay, and I have my application. The application has several attributes, such as a limit date or the maximum licenses it can have, or even the maximum simultaneous uses of this application. These are things you can define. You can allow trial or not. If you allow trial, people can automatically auto-register for a license. And there is a place to define what are the license attributes of the trial license. For example, 30 days, one computer, stuff like that. Features, we will talk about that later. Splash screen. BLT comes with a splash screen builder, which again, BLT, it's a toolbox and it gives you all the tools to publish your application without having the pain of doing all this kind of stuff by yourself. So a splash screen is something that is important in an application. So I'm going quickly to CML DQMH. So the way we design the splash screen here is that you choose a picture, PNG, bitmap, or JPEG for the background, and then you can add text elements on the top of it. So CML DQMH. Oh, interesting. Some .NET error. Never seen that one.
At least you're recording it, so go back and look at it later.
Yeah, let me kill this thing. It's always when you do a live demo that you get stuff like that.
Live demos are notorious for that. It's just test how well you can think on your feet and how good you are at troubleshooting. Because to act like you meant for that to happen.
Yeah. All right, so we are back. Okay, CML DQMH, and I was about to change the product name to CML DQMH. All right, it works. I believe if I put that here, it's better centered. Okay.
I think it's because you went to the choose picture dialog and didn't choose one and canceled
Probably there is a little bug here. Yeah. Provide by LabVIEW Mastermind. Let's put that here. Yeah, all right. So yeah, this is how you can design a splash screen very easily. And the splash screen of BLT that you see when I launch BLT, this splash screen is built with BLT as well. I can put the program version. The hashtag version is automatically replaced with the version of your application. Here it's the version of BLT, the current version of BLT, but when you build your own application, it's going to be replaced by your application version. I'm going to save that. The saving takes a little bit of time because we need to create a picture and send the picture to the server. So it can be a couple of megs to send to the server and save into a database.
I have a question, Matthias. How does it determine the build number, the version number? Do you supply that or does it automatically determine that?
It's automatically determined based on the file version in the executable.
Oh, okay. So whatever's in the executable, that's what determines what.
Exactly.
Okay. So you have to figure out how to set that yourself or automatically set it or something like that.
So when you build an executable with LabVIEW, LabVIEW sets that into the
Just
executable.
auto increments, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really the
Whatever number's in there, yeah.
whatever number you put in the version information
Yep,
here.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is my? It's a floating window. Oh no, it's done. Okay, it's saved. Okay, so I will distribute my application using that splash screen, basically. And all right, now we need to configure the build specs. The project template comes with build specifications. So when there are build specifications, you first need to analyze build specifications. So BLT knows if this is just a standard executable or if it is already a BLT executable or if maybe it's corrupted and you need to repair it. So you have two options. You can create a new BLT executable build specifications, or you can just add to the existing one, which I'm going to do.
That's just what sets and build specification things that you need set for BLT, is that it?
Yeah, to distribute your application. So remember, BLT, you distribute executables. So you need to have some sort of build specifications for your executable.
Yep.
In your
So
LabVIEW
it's
project.
basically then changing what's getting launched when the thing launches to launch the BLT wrapper.
Exactly.
Most of it? Okay.
So you can see that it added a BLT for LabVIEW folder in my project, and it also added that CML startup VI, which is the new startup VI of your executables.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go to the build specifications, now my new startup VI is this one, which is the wrapper.
What other settings does it change, Matthias? Is there anything? I mean, obviously, always included includes all that stuff. Does it change?
Yeah, all that stuff. There is. It enables, so it will do. It enables the pass all command line arguments to applications as a security feature. I don't know if you are aware that when you drag and drop a VI in an executable, the VI will be run in the executable instance.
Yeah, that's crazy. Fab showed me that.
And you can use that to get front panel control and indicator values and do stuff and VIs in memory, etc. By enabling the command line arguments to the application, you cut that feature. If you drag and drop a VI, it doesn't execute the VI. So that's pretty much it. We disable SSE2. Oh yeah, it's not valid in this version. In previous version, when you can enable or disable SSE2 optimizations, we disable SSE2 optimizations to have the executables compatible with Windows, not Windows ARM, but yeah, the Windows that is not built on Intel, the one that is on the Surface Pro X and stuff like that, that is not an Intel processor. So you can have LabVIEW applications work on that if you disable SSE2 optimization. But other than creating the wrapper and changing the startup VIs and adding some dependencies,
I saw some DLL in there. Can you describe that?
Yeah, there is a DLL here. It's basically to work with some zip files and unzip the updates that is going to be downloaded by your application. Then it's a lot of config files. And here you have the updater and an application that allows you to restart your application while it's running. But the only DLL.
Yeah, the DLL, is it .NET or what's the requirements to keep that working?
So there is definitely that. For example, the splash screen uses .NET for displaying the picture with transparency. Again, it's executables on Windows, so it works on Windows Home Edition, all the versions starting from XP. But there is nothing else to install on your computer. You don't need to install the .NET framework or whatever.
Okay, that was the question, to stay upgraded with patches, but okay.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, if I open that wrapper, you can see that it does some stuff. disable the VI server of your application also for security issue. And here is the launcher of my application that is just there. So before we go to this sequence structure, we have this loop that will wait for a flag, that flag to be true, and that flag will become true once this VI passed all the activation checks and the licensing checks and etc., etc. You don't have to change anything with that. The only thing you might want to change is the trial license settings. As I mentioned earlier, when someone auto-registers for a trial license, the license will be created with these license settings, where you can set a limit date or a maximum period from the first days or a maximum number of uses and a lot of stuff that I'm going to detail a little bit later. Okay, so it's time to build our application. I go to this button, build and distribute, and I'm going to do a simple build for now. It detected that this is the first time I build that application. So it asks me if I want to create an installer. So this is going to create the setup installer just for the purpose of this demonstration. That's the easiest stuff. I'm going to put it on the desktop. Do you want to include some runtime engines in the installer? That's something you can do. I'm going to say no to save time. Otherwise, it downloads the installer from ni.com, and we know how long it can be.
Does it auto detect which ones you need? Or?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It doesn't do that.
Okay.
I believe it auto detects which one just for the LabVIEW runtime, detects the version. But to be honest, this feature of, again, I recommend for the installer using the NI installer or other technology that you already have in place with NI package manager and NI not providing installers for runtimes elsewhere than in NI package manager. It created some troubles with BLT. So if you want to distribute the latest Visa runtimes or stuff like that with the installer built with BLT, it might be tricky. So I recommend using the NI installer and just package your BLT wrapped application.
Okay, so in that case, you go through the steps that you showed where you basically convert the build spec for BLT, and then at that point, you create your own installer within the project.
You create your own
installer however you want to do.
Yeah, or however you want to do, and you include the application in it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the installer is there. I'm going to launch it. It will install the application. And if I run the application, it asks me for an activation key. By the way, when I went to the splash screen feature, it's not only the splash screen, it's also all the color scheme of the pop-ups that are built in BLT. So like this activation key pop-up that you cannot change, but at least you can change the colors and the strings. There are some configuration files where you can change the text and do some localization. But in BLT, you can decide the background and the text color of all the activation pop-ups and etc. So I'm going to create a license because I need an activation key. So I go here, I create a license, I assign permissions to my CML DQMH project. Test user 1. Test user 1. All right. This is the license attributes. So I'm going to go over them quickly. So a license, you can enable it or disable it. You can set an absolute limit date for the license, or you can set a number of days from the first use of the software. So you can create the licenses upfront, and when the people activate the application, it starts counting the days. The number of launches allowed, it's also an option that you can limit. Number of simultaneous uses of the license in case the license is allowed for multiple computers. The number of computers allowed. License type, everyone uses computer-based, but user-based, basically, you can use BLT as a kind of a login system of your application. If you select user-based, every time you launch your application, you are prompted to enter an activation key. Every time. So it's kind of logging in your software, so then you can have special permissions and to do some stuff.
Matthias, is there documentation about ports or firewall stuff that we need to enable, disable to allow server communication?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's right there in the ports
Okay.
used. And there are some ports that you need to enable to contact the licensing server. This port is only for creating the free licensing server. This is a step that you do only one time from your dev machine or build machine. Uploading the product updates is done through FTP, and downloading the product updates is done through HTTP on port 80. And in the next version that will be shipped tomorrow, it's also using HTTPS on port 443 as well for downloading updates.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
So for a license, you can enable session and error logging. So if you enable that, you will have a record in your BLT dashboard of every launch of, sorry, Samia.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is, is there a way to like sign the updates to make sure that they're?
You can sign your executable as you would do from the LabVIEW project, and from there you can apply a signature to the executable. So if you launch your executable as an administrator or whatever, you will see the publisher information, etc. You mean sign the file that is downloaded to make sure it's not tampered?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, basically that's why we recently moved also to HTTPS.
That should save some of that problem.
Yeah, it validates the server certificate and makes sure you download it from the right place. There is no really validation of the file itself with a checksum or some stuff like that, but at least it validates that you download from the right place.
That was my first question. My second question is, what does that pre-authorized machine do on the bottom left, or is that not?
Pre-authorized machine means that when, so for this license, if someone activates your application using this license that I'm going to create, he is not going able to launch the application until you pre-authorize the machine.
Okay.
So when he launched the application, he will have a prompt to generate a machine identification file that they need to send you.
Yeah, okay.
And that allows you to make sure that they install your application on a particular piece of hardware, particular computer that maybe you sold with your software or something like that.
Yep.
I have a question about the user-based license type.
Yeah.
So then are there some APIs that allow you to get which users logged in order to perhaps like set different permissions based on the user?
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm going to show a little demonstration of that later, how based on which license is using your product, you can disable or enable some features of your application.
How advanced is that user-based stuff? Like, do you have group policies or anything like that? Or is it just per user?
It's per license.
Okay.
A license. I have some customers that have a license for one of their customer, and their customer uses that license for 10 machines or more. So a license is not tied to one machine. A license is a right to use your application with these limitations. So it can. So if you want to do some grouping, maybe you would authorize this license to be run on multiple machines.
I'm just thinking, like, it's not uncommon to have applications where people want to have different user levels, right? Like engineer, operator.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was wondering if this could be used to handle some of that rather than creating.
Yeah, so basically I'll show that later, but yeah, you can create several product features, like a product feature called Pro, one called days. And then for each license, you enable Pro or Base. And this is how it works here, to have several flavors of the same application based on what they purchased or whatever. So check products update at launch. Yes.
When you start your application, it will check it for a license and whether there's an update. But what if for some reason at a certain moment the machine is offline and it's impossible to start the application? Or?
So the first activation, you either the first time you launch the application, if you want the activation to be done through internet, you need internet, but there is also an offline activation process that is detailed. I need to search offline activation. So basically, if you start your application without internet, it tells you, okay, there is not connectivity, process with offline activation. You need to generate the machine ID file. You put the activation key that you got, or maybe you want a trial license as well. You generate the file. You send the file to the publisher, so you. Here, when you are going to go to BLT and go to the offline activation, you read the file that was sent by your customer. You're going to get some information about his machine, the name, and some security attributes, and the activation key that was used, if it exists in your database, etc. And if everything looks okay, you generate the license file. And then the person will select install the license file, and then you're good to go. Of course, if there is no connectivity, it cannot check for updates. So next time there is internet, it will check for updates. But you can still run the application offline. The license information is cached and encrypted on the computer, so you can run it offline. And that's why we have this attribute offline use in days. You can allow an application to run offline, but maybe after 30 days, okay, you want to make sure they connect to the internet and resynchronize the license in case maybe you disable their access or change their features and stuff like that. Oh, only 10 minutes left. Yeah, it's going to be okay. So let's copy the activation key that I just created and activate that. We can see our nice splash screen, the program version 1000. And the first activation takes always a little bit longer, but then the data is cached and it goes faster, and then it does the extra checks in the background to speed up the launch. So we have our application, we can calibrate, start, stop, etc. You know, it just works. Now what is interesting is that, and I'm going to generate an error so we can see it. And yeah, so I'm just going to change the log path to a drive that doesn't exist. And if I start recording, you see I have an error that occurred. Change that back, start and stop. Okay. What is interesting is that for this particular user, I can see that there is a session. It started the software at this time. As he runs the software, the last ping time will update. So you know when the people start and stop running your application, which version of the application. And I'm going just to stop the application. So I believe the errors are uploaded every 2 minutes or something like that. But if I close the application, it's going to, you see it doesn't stop right away because we have some error in the cache that needs to be uploaded to the server before. Okay, so here you can see that we have our error that has been reported with a lot of information, the code, the source, the error message, supplied path for supplied folder path does not exist. You can add some debug message as well. The call chain. You even have the control values. So in the case of the application where I have a status string where I log everything that happens, it's very useful. You have the history of everything that happened in your application, and it will try to to catch the values that are in all the control and indicators of your front panels when reporting the error. So a lot of information for you to help you troubleshoot that error. Now with that description, you know, I know how to solve that. It's enough, but yeah. So this error reporting feature is very, very useful and appreciated by the various customers. There is you can get email notifications for errors. So here I can create a notification rule that I will call all errors, and I will enable it only for the error type. Then you can add filtering for some error codes or ignore the source, and a lot of filtering for which products, license, machines, whatever.
Cool.
And you decide who will receive this
That would
email
probably be really
notification.
useful if you got like some kind of random intermittent error and you're like, hey, you know, just alert me just when that one error happens.
I cannot tell you how many customers I helped with that feature, and Fabiola also, I believe it's her favorite feature because we don't especially speak the same language with the customer.
Yeah.
When they call you, hey, it's not working. Okay, but what is not working? What do you see? What do you get?
You could also probably use that to like make sure errors don't come back. If you had one, just set up an alert for that specific error, and if it ever pops up again, then you're like, oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
How do you
Another
deal
way to
with?
view. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh.
I was just going to say, what if you're generating 10,000 of these things a day? You know, how do you manage multiple errors and clearing and all
I think
that?
that's the filter part, right?
So there is an automatic mechanism that if you get many times the same error, like you are in a loop and it's just, it will tell you at some point that this error in the log was generated like 1,000 times, but it doesn't log all of them. So it will log the first 5, I believe, and then the 6th one will just tell you how many times it happened in between. And definitely we don't want to overload the server that way.
Yeah. Is there easy ways to remove them out of the log, or you know, how does it deal with what's on the server versus the computer or the host?
So if you delete a session, it deletes automatically all the errors attached to the session. Also in the dashboard here, it will only show the last 1,000 entries, I believe. It's a tree control. You know how tree controls are, can be very slow when there is a lot of data. So the next thing I want to show you is, of course, the auto update. I was thinking to make first a demo about the auto update and then a demo about the features, but I'm going to do them at once because we are close to the end. So I'm going to create a feature in my product called allow calibration. And I'm going to add an attribute called message. All right, so I have a new feature, ID1. Okay, the ID is important. Now I go to my CML, actually to my module CML UI. And when I click on calibrate, okay, it sends a request to the DAC module to calibrate. So I want to disable calibration for some users and enable calibration for some users. All right. So I go to the BLT API and use that VI get feature access. It gives me an array of clusters of features and the array of feature IDs in the same order of the array of clusters. So I'm just going to search for my feature ID 1. And then take the corresponding cluster in there. And then here I get, whether the feature is enabled, the attributes value. So if it's enabled, I'm going to send my request to the DAC module with a message that that is the first attribute value, because I only have one attribute, and one button dialog. I do like that, just to show you the purpose of the attributes, that you can put different values. So you could use that, for example, to tie a particular license to a specific hardware with a serial number, and they're allowed to run the application only with that DAC board with that serial number that you compare with the feature, stuff like that. And if it's the feature is not enabled, I'm going to show a message. This feature, you cannot use this feature. All right. That here. All right. So that's my change. Let's change the front panel color as well to make it very clear that we've updated the application, something like that. Here. All right. All right. No. This. No. Yeah. No.
Always
Okay. Not much. That's good enough. All right. So now in my application, that there is a product change log, similar to a Git change log. I mean, not very similar, but when you do a change, you can add what you did. So I changed front panel color, and let's create another. I protect calibration feature. Okay. So when I build a new version of my application, it will automatically compile the last product changes since the last release to make them the release notes. So the release notes, if you add your changes in the product change log in BLT, the next time you build a version, it creates the release notes for that version automatically. So we build. So at this point, BLT is calling the application builder API of the LabVIEW and scripts building your executable. So we are building version 1001. I could have gone to the advanced build. I cannot really put that here. In the advanced section, you can set a different product version. Obviously, you can run a program after the update with some arguments. Auto update allows you to force the customer to install the latest version. There will be no prompt, hey, do you want to download, yes or no? It will just install. So what Fabiola does, for example, with some customers, she gives them like 10 or 15 days to take the time to refuse the update. But after 10 or 15 days, she enables the auto update, which you can do afterwards. After you released your product update, you can go and change it to be auto update, and they will not have the choice. Required update, if you didn't run your applications, it's a long time and there is a bunch of new versions, you can make some versions required, and it will make sure that they go through this version. So let's say you are on 1000, the latest version is 2000, but in between there is 1.5 that's a required update. It will make sure to download and install 1.5 and then go to the latest version. In case in some version you have, I don't know, maybe some scripts to upgrade the database or stuff like that, some stuff that you need to make sure happens. Beta release, if you publish a version as a beta release, only the license that have the beta release attribute enabled, which is there, will be able to install that, that license. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, so let's launch the application. here I can see that my new product version has been distributed. I can see the release notes. And as I said before, I can change the auto update required, beta release attributes, and even the description after the update has been pushed as well.
I have a question. So obviously, I'm assuming this has been through many iterations, right? And you didn't have all these features to begin with.
No.
Did you envision all these features when you started, or have some of them just kind of popped up and like, how has that worked?
Many features come from customer requests. Many features come from customer requests. At the beginning, I wrote the software for my needs. I needed a way to license and auto-update my applications. Then I was like, no, it would be nice if I can know which version is running on which system, etc., etc. Then a friend at some point saw this. I gave a demonstration and he told me, you should sell that. It's a product, man. You should do something about it. It's not only for you. You should market it and sell it. So that's how it became in 2012 a product that you can buy and download. Many new features come from customers. They send me an email. Hey, it would be nice if we can have this and that. And if it gives value to many customers, not only one, it gets implemented. So again, yes.
Is there also a way after upgrading to downgrade again?
If you remove a product update or if you set it to a beta release, for example, the people that are not that don't have access to beta versions will be prompted to downgrade to the latest version available, or you can just remove the product updates.
But it's not something the customer can do themselves.
No, the customer cannot really choose which version is using. It's upon the developer to decide that. So to speed up the launch, again, the product updates check is done after the application has started, is in the background. But in this case, I know that there is an update available, so I will not check for the background. I can just check for updates from there, from the startup screen. So it tells me, okay, new version is available. You have 1000. There is this available, and these are the release notes, and this is the file size to download. Yes, no, yes. So it downloads, it gets your application, it's going to extract your product update and install it and restart the application.
That's not doing it through the installer then, right? That's
really, that's really straightforward. You download a zip, you extract the zip, and you replace into your application installation directory. Okay. Yeah. So there is no way to. It's not as you can do as much stuff as with like set up registry keys and stuff like that in an update. So there is a new version of BLT that is not public. Some customers use it already. And this new version is really based on package management. It's not using NH package manager or Conan. It's using Qt package manager, another package manager. It has a lot of features. And I'm using this for the next version of BLT. I have some customer using it already with LabVIEW applications that have in the background like 30 different components that we can upgrade and update individually, like configuration files, shortcuts on the desktop, stuff like that, that we can really have a lot of granularity. I will not have time to show you a demo of that today, but if you are interested, definitely let me know, because this is a technology that we have in hand to make very, very complex installation scenarios. If there is something you are not able to achieve, talk to me, because I'm pretty sure I can do it. With that customer, we've done crazy things in terms of customizing the installation and new installation also, which is an important part of the process. So if I start to calibrate, you cannot use that feature. So the way I enable that feature is I go to the license and I go to feature permissions. And here I have all my features available, and I'm going to give permission on that feature. And remember, we have an attribute, the message. Just going to put something like that, congrats, and apply. So I believe every 10 minutes, it refreshes the license in the background. We don't want to wait for 5 minutes. So I'm just going to stop the application and restart it to force a refresh of the license and get the new feature permissions. All right, so it started. By the way, we have our new color. I can start, stop, and let's see if it already, congrats, and calibrated. So you can see how I can dynamically enable some part of the applications and even have some custom values, attribute values per license or per customer or per system. Depending on how you use your licenses.
Would it be possible, and this is just crazy, but maybe like have something in there and they could press a button and it would automatically like tell the server, hey, enable this feature, and it would like then like, you know, where they like enter some, like send them through some kind of forms to like pay for it like as you go. Like, hey, I want to do this thing right now, and here's a, you know, how you got some web application says, oh, if you want to use this thing, upgrade to premium, and you click the button and it automatically upgrades you.
Absolutely, you have here a get product feature permission and set product feature permissions. So this is something
you could do that.
Use.
You would just have to like integrate your own payment processor or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly in the application, and cool. Enable some product permissions, even product permissions. So yeah, this palette is, I admit, it's not very well organized. One of the reasons is that BLT works. BLT is a licensing product. So the source code of the source distribution of what you see here, the diagrams are removed. It's compiled code. Otherwise, it would be a big security breach. So I need basically to provide the source distribution for every LabVIEW version and bitness. And it will be a pain also to have the palette for every build, etc. So basically, when I install the palette from there, the palette is generated dynamically in your LabVIEW installation environment. So that's why it's not very well organized. It's a flat structure because it programmatically generates the palette based on what is in the latest version of the source distribution.
Cool.
There is this VI increment feature usage count. So some people they like to allow a particular feature. For example, I could allow to do the calibration, but only 10 times. And after that, you're done. You cannot do calibration. So every time you do the calibration, you call that VI, you provide the ID feature. And in the permissions of that user, you see that I can change the number of use allowed for that license. So then it's automatically managed, and at some point you get an error that you are not allowed to use that feature anymore.
That way to set like a usage per period of time, like once a month, you're allowed to do the calibration. If you do it more often, then
yeah, we have some customers that use that, for example, to know when they need to replace the cables on the machine. So they know, for example, the machine after 5,000 tests of the UUT, they need to replace some cables. So they use the features like that to track every time that they test the unit, they increment the number of that feature, and then they have some warnings. Hey, you exceeded 5,000 UUTs, you need to replace the cables, and then it resets the count. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you could manually reset that through the API or something, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Are any of these?
Yeah, that'd be a really interesting use case.
I just assume that all this stuff's going to your INI files. Are those open source? Are they encrypted? Like, is there ways to hack it? I just worry about our Mexican friends changing these things.
Yeah. So there have been several external and independent audits on BLT, so trying to crack it, basically. So at the beginning, some of them were able to crack it, and at the end, they were not able based on the recommendations. Like, this stuff about dragging and dropping the VI on the executable is something that we didn't catch at the beginning, and that was revealed by one of the audit company that we hired. I cannot really say it's 100% sure. You would not believe me, but I'm not aware of any attempt. One of my biggest customers, they do research and development, and they are very, very careful. It's very sensitive information, and they are very, very careful about the protection. You cannot just roll back your clock and expect to to bypass the limit date of your license. It's much more complex than that. That's also why all the source code is removed from the source distributions, and the license file, they reside in local app data license file. They look like that, and it's just binary encrypted file per machine that you would not be able to reverse. So yeah, there are some INI files, but it's all encrypted.
Perfect. That's what I was hoping for. Okay.
I have a question. Can you roll it back? Like, say you release version 1.0.0.2 or something, and you find some critical bug, and you're like,
let's remove that update. It's bad. Okay, let's remove it. Okay, it asks me for some.
So you do that, but then what happens when they start up? Will it just automatically say, I'm rolling back?
Yeah. So automatically depends on the auto update attribute of the latest version available.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they will just have the choice. I'll show you.
Okay. So you could set the latest version available to auto update, and at that point, you would probably add some, like if you had, say when you upgrade to that bad version, you'd done some database migration, then you would just add another script to undo the database migration. Is that it? You could do that.
Maybe in that case, you would need to really publish a new update that undo what you did, depending. In that case,
so rather than roll back, you would just revert everything in get and then roll forward to a newer version. Okay, yeah, and then remove. Okay.
But here I just downgrade it to 1000, and you can see it will start again 1000. And the nice thing is that if I refresh the product version, I removed it. But you can go in a specific version and see who is using or which machine is using that particular version. So it's very, very easy to figure out who updated to that version and who didn't.
Deprecate an old version and say, I'm removing this. It would be very easy to see, make sure that nobody's using it.
Yeah.
Now, does the end user have any say over, like, is there a way for them to look at it and say, hey, there's like 5 versions out there. I want this version or that version, or is it just automatically update and that's it?
In this version of BLT, it just goes to the latest version available. You can refuse the update. If you uncheck the auto update attribute, you can refuse the update, but you're going to be prompted at every launch.
Okay, so the end user then has very little control over the updates other than I can accept it or not. If they're allowed not to accept it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to run, but I want to say this is pretty cool. I definitely want to look into it.
Yeah, I do realize it's well past time. So if anybody else has to run, feel free. I'll hang out for a few more minutes, but
yeah, I'll reach out to you separately, Matthias. I have some other questions too. So
perfect. Thanks for your attention, Casey, and look forward to talk more with you. Bye-bye.
Great. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, I'm willing to hang out for another like 5 or 10 minutes if anybody else has any more questions or whatever for Matthias. If anybody needs to go, by all means, like, don't hesitate. Hopefully nobody's been like sitting here like, oh, I gotta go, but I can't go.
Yeah. Yeah, so really the idea of BLT is really to provide a toolbox for a developer, okay, I have a LabVIEW application, I want to sell that or to distribute that into my company, and I want an easy way to manage versions and who is using, etc. Okay, let's go with BLT. Everything is done for me already. I can create a splash screen, an installer, publish updates, protect features, etc. Then obviously BLT is made by StudioBot, so we have all the hooks in the technology. So so we can do much more, and we have customers that have some private version of BLT that do more stuff specific to them, really specific to them. But it's a nice toolbox to start with, and it's been 10 years almost day for day that it's been publicly released. Kevin?
The price I saw is at $2 per product per month. Is that correct?
So that's $2 per deployment per month.
Right.
Where is that? BLT? Oh, it was on the other screen. Yeah.
It's just on the website there.
Yeah. $2 per deployment per month. What is a deployment? It's an application activated with a license on a machine. If you have 2 different applications on the same machine, it's 2 deployments. If you have 1 application on 10 machines, it's 10 deployments. Okay. So this is a recurring payment. We have also an offer for non-recurring payments. So some customers are not comfortable with recurring payment. So you can buy, for example, 1 lifetime deployment for $100 or 100 lifetime deployments for $3,000. So the price decrease per deployment. And then this is deployments that you pay only 1 time, and you can transfer them between customers as well. If one of your customers stops using your product, you can reuse that deployment for another customer.
So this is all using your servers, right? So what, I may inquire later about the enterprise and if we deploy it on our own servers.
Yeah, it's really a discussion that we have on a customer base for hosting the server. There are some considerations, and we need some access monthly to do some maintenance. We need to decide whether we provide the machine or you provide the machine. But yeah, that's a discussion that we need to have.
Okay, great.
Well, it sounds like you have a standard product that you can just buy off the shelf, but also if you want some customization, then that can also be a possibility, right?
Yes, yes. One good example is this one. One good example is all this product feature where you manage the product features and the attributes. It's all string. All string values. So it can be a source of errors if you have, I don't know, a department that sell licenses and they need to give permissions for this specific flavor of your application, etc. If they do a mistake in writing the attributes values properly, etc., it can create problems. So we have some customers that decided to hire us to design a BLT client application that is really tied to their needs, their own product features, etc. So the way the product features attributes are stored in BLT is completely transparent. They have a front end that is different and where they cannot make mistake and they cannot set the value out of range and stuff like that. So that's also something that we can offer.
Very cool. Yeah, I think I had seen a demo of this a long time ago, but I don't think it was this detailed or in depth. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's always difficult. I realize I thought I would be like 40 minutes or something like that, but there is so many things to show. It's always difficult to show everything, and I didn't show everything, but I believe I showed the most important. But yeah, there are a lot of features, and again, the best resource is the documentation. I try to really keep it up to date. Something I didn't mention is the continuous integration. BLT works with continuous integration. So you have you can call the BLT automation executable from command line and do stuff like add it not in the product changelog, build and distribute the product. Also as a beta release, you can enable or disable check for updates programmatically as well. So this is stuff that you can do in your continuous integration process, and you can have BLT build and push your application as part of your CI/CD pipelines.
Cool.
Perfect.
So just for you, Matthias, we did actually record this. I hope you saw that at the very beginning. I will send you a copy of the recording so you can have it then. And maybe it'll be useful. So if somebody asks for a demo or something, like, I don't have time here, go watch the video or whatever. So.
That's great. Yeah. Please send it to me. Thank you.
Yep. Cool.
So thank you very much for your attention, and sorry that I took all that time, especially Stefan. It's probably pretty late for you.
Well, almost midnight, but that's the time of the day that I have time to do stuff.
Well, it's a good sign that you didn't bore him. He didn't fall asleep.
Nope.
So
Definitely not. It's a very nice product.
Thank you.
I'll certainly be in touch. We're probably going to get involved in about 3 to 6 months. So I'll probably be picking your brain quite a bit. I appreciate the demo.
Perfect. Yeah, don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you very much for your attention. Got to go as well.
So since it's late, we'll skip our normal closing and we'll pick up next time. So cool.
And
right,
thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Enrique, for plugging BLT at the last meeting. Very appreciated. I'm always surprised when I see that people don't especially never heard about BLT or don't really know it, because it's been around for 10 years already. But I'm a programmer. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not on the social networks, and I don't like spending time on that. So maybe that's part of the problem. But so thank you for inviting me to show that tool.
Yeah, definitely. Marketing is key. So. But I'm happy to help you get the word out there. It sounds like a pretty cool project. So,
thank you, guys. Have a good evening. Good night.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.